everybody. Today we are going to talk about our last complex pattern of inheritance, which is sex-linked inheritance. And I thought this comic was pretty funny, so I put it in there. Hope it doesn't gross you out too much. But it says, do you know that diarrhea is genetic? And the little baby says, really? And then the dog says, yeah, it runs in your genes. So sorry, kind of gross, but hope you made you smile at least a little bit. Okay, so we know that DNA contains our genetic info, right? And we know at this point that chromosomes are just coiled up DNA, right? They are just like coiled up DNA there. Okay, that's what a chromosome is. And then that central region is called your centromere, which holds it together, right? Now, those bands on your chromosomes are your genes. So those are your genes right there. Now, what would happen is just pretend we can kind of like uncoil the DNA there, just kind of pull out the little like piece of thread, right? And then you would have this DNA segment for this gene right here. Now, for that, let's say that this region right here is for the gene for earlobes, right? Whether you have free or attached earlobes. So remember, then we would have to separate it. DNA helicase would come in and separate it, and then it would need to be transcribed into mRNA and then translated with the help of tRNA into proteins to figure out what allele you are going to inherit for that gene. Whether you're going to get the dominant free earlobe, the capital F, or the lowercase f for attached. So say here would be another one, right? Say here would be another gene right here. This region of the DNA would code for the gene, let's say eyelashes, whether you have long or short eyelashes. So we know that then if you have the same type of chromosome, look at these two chromosomes, right? Look at where the genes are found. They're in the same spots. So each one of these then would be considered, these two chromosomes right here would be considered what? Okay, right, a homologous pair. So when you know that you don't just get 100% of your mother or your father's genes, right? You get about 50% of each. So if we look here, this would be the biological mother's chromosome, let's say, and here would be the biological father's chromosome. And then it just depends as to which, so this would be like for, this would be the gene for, like I said, the trait for earlobes. Okay, this would be the trait for earlobes, and so would this one. And then this one, remember I said, would be like the trait for eyelashes, whether they are long or short. And then so would this one over here. And then just whether you receive the dominant or recessive allele for each, or depending on what type of pattern of inheritance is, designates what trait, how you phenotypically display that trait. Okay, so don't forget, in all of your cells, how many chromosomes do you have? In all of your cells, how many chromosomes do you have? Very good, 46, because they're paired up. They're in pairs. So remember, they go from looking like this, and then these get separated during meiosis in the formation of your sex and sperm cells to create an offspring, okay, to create a human offspring. Right here would be a normal human karyotype. Again, notice just arranged by size, and that we have 23 pairs. These are called your autosomes, 1 through 22, and the 23rd pair is your sex chromosomes. So looking at this, let's look at this karyotype over here. So what would be the biological sex of this individual right here? Okay, so the longer one's the X, the shorter one's the Y. So this person would have to be biologically, the sex would be a male because it has one X and one Y chromosome. Now, the reason why I'm reviewing all this is because there's certain genetic disorders or genes that deal with just the X chromosome here. Remember, it is a longer chromosome than the Y in comparison, and therefore there's more DNA and more genes on it. Now, the ones we're just going to talk about in this little activity is hemophilia. If you have hemophilia, your body doesn't clot normally as it should. And then we're also going to talk about the sex-linked trait known as color blindness and baldness. Those aren't necessarily genetic disorders, but those are genes that are also found on the X chromosome. So these are going to be X-linked traits that we talked about because that's where they're found, or also a lot of times referred to as sex-linked traits.